having the time available whenever somebody needs something done. Where I'm not stuck behind a desk working, I can actually go and be the hands and feet. I want to find opportunities for success where God richly blesses our family to allow us to richly bless others.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. My name is Drew Pearson. You are listening to the Pearson Perspective. This is a deep dive into the stories and mindsets of successful business operators and investors. Let's go have some fun. All right, thanks everybody for joining us today. I'm so excited to have our latest guest on, Richard. He's a good buddy of mine. We've actually been business partners on a deal before, but he's just a really, really interesting guy. He's a father of four, a good man of faith. He's an appraiser, an MAI appraiser, so he is one of the select few who has both kind of the knowledge and the experience to get that accreditation. And he's also one of the larger mobile home park owners in the state of Louisiana. So he's kind of got the head side, but he's also got the real experience side too. I think we're going to have a ton of fun today. And Richard, thanks so much for joining us.
Hey, thanks, Drew. I appreciate you having me, man.
Yeah. Well, kind of help us understand a little bit how you got started in the appraisal world.
So I was getting my master's after undergraduate. I was a branch manager for Regions Bank, and I did really well and I really enjoyed it. And I asked for a raise, and my boss then just gave me the proverbial middle finger, and I said, "Okay, right back at you," and I left. And I went to get my master's degree in finance. After that, I needed money for the summer, and one of my professors said, "Hey, you really should consider going into the appraisal world." And I was like, nah, bro, I don't think so. I really thought it was going to be extremely boring. I was got the spoon out my eyeballs, but that's not at all what it was. The firm I went into is a commercial real estate firm, and I've learned that every single deal was different. And I was like, hey, this is what I want to do. And that's kind of how I got started in appraisal. And then from there, I was like, well, what's the next step in appraisals? I want to be the best at what I do. In the midst of studying and taking a bunch of classes, you have a big family and you get to discover the work-life balance there. And so it wasn't until almost 10 years after being an appraiser I got my MAI. But yeah, I needed money for the summer and I was desperate for work. And I just happened to land in a great firm in a good position.
You really have. The firm you work for, if they're not the best in the state, they're in the top two or three. And that's actually how we met. Do you remember that? You appraised one of the first industrial properties I purchased. And we just kind of started a friendship years ago, it seems like now.
Was that big Port Allen deal?
Mm-hmm. Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
I remember that one. I remember walking it and thinking, what is this guy doing?
Yeah, we still got Big Nasty. She's doing great. Exxon's there. We really cleaned it up. It's a great little property.
Big Nasty.
So there's three ways to value commercial real estate. In residential, we kind of just look at what the house sold for next door, maybe adjust it up or down based off of the granite countertops or what have you. Help us understand how professionals like yourself view commercial real estate, how you come up with values, and the three different ways that you kind of blend to find that value.
Yeah, so we can expand this greatly, but on a macro view, most commercial real estate appraisers look at everything on an economic basis. That is, what income will it generate? And this is true for the three approaches: the cost approach, the sales comparison approach, and the income approach. All three approaches, we acknowledge income. So on the income side, of course, is what's the rent and what's the expenses divided by a cap rate. Cap rate being what would be your perpetual return if you receive this cash flow. And so that ranges from property type to property type. On the sales comparison approach, it's the exact same thing. We're looking at the general age and condition, what property rights are transferred with it. but all those things are affected by the income. So the lower quality building you have, of course, the lower rent you have. And you can easily make those adjustments based off of income from one property that's sold to another. And then cost is the same thing. It's what's feasible and what isn't. What would it cost to build new, right? And then take out any form of depreciation, whether it's external, something that the property can't benefit from, whether you have a prison next door, or if you border a park or a wildlife area, or a garbage dump or a library. All those things are, they're external to you, but they affect your rent, your income,
right? And
we can measure that. And so those are the three macro value approaches to value, and they all come to the source of what will the property generate, and what do other properties generate as a source of revenue.
Thank you for that. It seems so simple when you break it down at a high level, but we know that there's a lot more nuance and a lot more skill that's involved. So you've been an appraiser for 10, maybe 15 years. What in the world got
20.
you almost what? No, I'm taking us back.
Yeah.
So this was maybe 7 years ago or so. What in the world made you want to get into the mobile home park business? Help us understand that transition from appraiser to the next level.
Man, that was a leap of faith, to be honest with you. And so in my banking career, all my largest customers had substantial real estate holdings. It may not have been their business, was real estate, but as a part of their business, they had substantial holdings. I had an old man, Mr. Johnny, who was one of my customers, who was in the residential real estate market, and he was my first mentor. As a customer, he would come in and just hang out with me. He taught me everything about tenants and leases and what to look for. He taught me about income, even though I had my degree in finance. So I built a single family portfolio through the mentorship of Mr. Johnny. And so I kept that portfolio through my appraisal career. And then one of our appraisal buddies, who was our mobile home park appraiser, he got a job, and on top of it, it said foreclosure. Right? So normally the banks will let us know, is this for a refinance, a purchase, special assets? And he said, hey, I don't want to appraise this, I want to buy it. And I was like, good luck. And his response was, no, actually, you're the one with residential experience. Come partner with me on this. And I went, you're funny. No way. And so that he really just convinced me. He said, okay, let's assume worst case scenarios. All this doesn't work. What do we have to lose? And the property was small enough where even like our house mortgage payment was larger than the mortgage payment that we would have for this. And it's like, worst case scenario, we could float this for a while and we'll just sell it to somebody who knows what they're doing. So we rolled the dice and we filled up we got that property, learned a bunch of lessons, went to schooling afterwards and found out we did everything wrong, and just got lucky. I won't discount luck in that scenario. And then shortly thereafter, like, hey, I think we can systemize this before mobile home parks started getting systemized. And we quickly bought 2 more. And so yeah, it was not on a gamble, but on what's my true risk, right? And if I did have to lose everything, at worst, if we did have to lose a park, at worst, I'll probably just break even. So I figured break even was a good opportunity for education.
I love that. And you're so great. Your mindset is so great around that. I'm not sure if it's because you're an appraiser, but you can think of downside risks very clearly and unemotionally. I like that. I really do.
Yeah, naturally pessimistic on economics, sure.
Golly, freaking appraisers.
It's a prerequisite. Absolutely.
It is. You mentioned systems and processes. I've seen technology in real estate changed dramatically over the last 5 to 6 years. Help us understand what processes you have in place, and how do you think about all that?
Yeah, so on the on the operations side is where these processes really come down to. Apartments, our closest cousin, they have fantastic systems, and they're everywhere. It's not just fantastic systems, but multiple systems that you can employ.
Mm-hmm.
And so we took that model and we applied it towards the mobile home industry. We are effectively a detached apartment,
Mm-hmm.
and instead of renting units or homes, we rent lots. Everything else is pretty much the same. And so on the operation side, we introduced electronic payments to our tenants. I think we were one of the first, at least in our area, that offered that for mobile home tenants. We offered our tenants hey, if you pay your rent on time, and if you want, you can report this to the credit bureau and build up your credit because we want that for you. We were the first to offer electronic leases, towards our tenants. And so when they say, "Oh, hey, no, I'm not breaking the rules," we're like, "Nah, look right here.
There it is.
You signed this right here." We also expanded our ability on how and where to pay. So the traditional is you go pay at the manager's office, you pay at the office, and it'll be in cash or money order, rarely check. And now we said, hey, pay online, because you pay for most things online anyway. And if you don't want to do that, go to an Ace Cash Express, go to Walmart, and pay there. You get a receipt immediately. You're already in these stores already.
Mm-hmm.
And so we made things easier. And that was the first true systemization. And the most important component is collecting rent, right? And so that was the first one. The second one, on the expense side of things, really comes towards economies of scale, right? Can we work with the same utility companies for trash service, for sewer service? Can we have those same operators and get bulk discount? Can we let them know what we require, and so there's no misunderstanding, right?
Right.
And through that you get better experience, you get faster service because you become one of their larger customers, and you get more inexpensive service than if you were to do things a la carte. So having a good team.
Beautiful. Yeah, the team and the processes, it just makes all the difference in the world. There's some people there's some folks who just think mobile home park, they may think of like a meth lab. They may think of like what's going on out there. Help us understand. You've broken this down for me. I think it's kind of 2 different levels of mobile home parks. And then there's also kind of a certain model that you employ, mainly owning just the lots. Kind of walk us through how you think about the mobile home park business.
So yes, there's 3 models. There's your trailer park boys, the stereotypical trailer park, filled with trailer trash, drugs, meth labs, prostitutes, violence, domestic abuse. Those exist, and they're plentiful. If I had to take a guess, I would say that's 30 to 25% of the parks out there. The vast majority of parks, or what we buy, are mobile home parks, where it's people that, from some decision in the past, they're just not able to afford standard housing, and they have to live in a mobile home. And they see that their best and most affordable solution is inside of a park, and so that's where they stay. They have jobs, they have sources of income, they want a clean community, they want organization, they want order. They want nothing more than you and I would want. And then the third tier is a truly detached apartment, where homes are nice, rents are high, they're almost as high as what an apartment rent will be. And roads are nice, everything's groomed, and you have a much higher tenant turnover. Um, so I've purchased all three models and try to convert all the, the first and the last model to the middle model, which I found has been the least management intensive, which means that I get more of my time in exchange for a little bit less income, which I think is well worth it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a whole lot easier to take the third model, where it's a really nice park, and give the tenants an opportunity to own their homes, where I'm just renting the land, than what it is to take the trailer park model and to convert that to a mobile home model. As a matter of fact, I'm still trying to turn over a trailer park that I've had for almost 2.5 years now. That's been tough, tougher to do.
Yep. Lots of good lessons learned over the years. You know, the more I think I know, the more I realize I just don't know anything.
Yeah. Well, for the trailer park one, the predominant demographic of our tenants, I'd say 80% of them work, and then 20% they do side jobs, right?
Mm-hmm.
Non-reportable income.
Oh yeah, baby. Yeah.
Well, the park that I bought, not just for the majority of my tenants, those that had non-reportable income, they also just don't care. I didn't have many druggies, but I just had a lot of people just living in filth and trash, not wanting to pick up after themselves. Somebody else is going to do it. Just that kind of a mentality. And so what I learned was you can't change a culture. And I went in with the prideful thinking of like, oh, I've done this enough. Surely this is going to be a challenge, but nothing I can't overcome, right? Once we put order in place, once we find out who the bad tenants are, and that's not the case. And if you are raised living in trash, and you're now 40 years old, living in trash is normal to you. And it's really difficult. If there's only one or two tenants, that's not a big deal. But when there's 60 and it's 80% of your tenants,
yeah,
it becomes really difficult.
So what kind of red flags do you look for as you're viewing new investments? Could be a mobile home, could be another asset class. What are those kind of deal killer, hey, we're not going any further in the decision-making process?
So red flags for me are, one is sewer.
Mm-hmm.
What is the true infrastructure of the system? And even if it's on city sewer or city infrastructure, there's still what's supporting my real estate. Because if any of those life-giving infrastructure, sewer and water, is an issue, it's on you. And not just so you're going to lose tenants, the park name's going to get out. You get reported to the parish. The parish gives you trouble because mobile home parks just normally aren't welcomed by the parish.
Mm-hmm. And
so that's red flag number one. Everything can be pretty on the outside, but if there's infrastructure problems, I'd rather not deal with it. The costs are too great, and even if there's something where, oh, this is an easy fix, right? I could do this. This not.
Yep. Something
else is going to break. The one who can't fix it moved or had a baby, or and it just becomes a bigger problem.
Yes.
So that's red flag number one. Now red flag for me number two is tenant culture. If I go into a property, I see the majority of it is trashed out. I'm really gonna just negotiate down to a price that really makes it worth my while. Mm-hmm. So much so where I would invite all my tenants to leave and then start from scratch. And I'll be paying more.
You invite them. That's so kind of you. We invite you to go live somewhere else. You're not welcome here.
Yes, that is, and look, and that's what our managers and that's how we frame it.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Thank you for being a part of our community. We invite you to find another community.
Yeah.
Your lease will no longer be applicable in the next 60 days.
I'm gonna have to start using some of that. I like that.
Yeah, man. It also it changes some of the it changes the attitude of the conversation, and maybe just not in the conversation, but in your mind, right? As opposed to saying, "Oh, I'm going to tell you to leave." I'm going to invite you to leave. Right?
Yeah, communication's so key with your employees, with your customers, with your tenants. Kind of softening that language. I found exactly what you're saying. It makes all the difference in the world.
Yeah, no doubt.
So it's not just a price thing anymore. I mean, there's a lot more nuance to this than just what's the price, from what it sounds like.
Yeah, the price is the obvious one, right?
Mm-hmm.
How much can you afford, and what do you want to lever, and how much, right? Of course, in real estate, the more you can lever safely, the higher your return. That used to be what I would look for, like what would give me the highest return possible.
Mm-hmm.
Now I look at cash flow, which isn't necessarily return related. I've just bought 2 properties in all cash, just so I can get that cash flow back, so I can leave some other things behind. Right.
Mm-hmm.
As a real estate investor and a master's of finance, we would
what
say you're an idiot. You're an absolute idiot. But the more properties you have, the more time you need to manage those properties or to manage the managers. And I've tried that, and I'd rather own some time now where my kids are younger, and when they go off to college, I may entertain of how fast and how large can we scale this up. But right now, it's like, how much cash flow can I get to support the lifestyle that I want to live?
That's really interesting. I feel like our conversations have kind of morphed over the years. You had some real goals of number of pads in the state or whatever, number of homes that you wanted to have.
Mm-hmm.
Has that changed because of age, because of time, because of risk tolerance, or just maybe what you just mentioned? It's not as important as it maybe used to be.
Yeah, it's changed because of faith. So before, my priority was to acquire wealth as fast as possible, and now my priority is train up a child in the way that he should go, right? And not just my own child, but to be there for kids in our church that either don't have fathers available, or their dads just their dads aren't Christians, and that takes a lot of time. It's like right now I have about 30 8th grade boys that I'm not claiming to be their father, but I'm developing relationships throughout the week of, hey, how's it going? I prayed for you today. And
man, that's awesome.
I can't do that and blow up our real estate business. And I was really scared of what was going to happen to our income when both my wife and I decided, hey, let's focus more on faith and family than on wealth. And I intrinsically had, oh crap, what's going to happen to our income? And the Lord provides. And so my hours of working have decreased. My income has actually increased. And instead of working 2 full-time jobs, between the investor and appraiser side, it's like I'm working 1 full-time job. And I only wish I would have done it sooner. But I think if it wouldn't have been for the prior acquisitions, I wouldn't be able to do what I'm able to do now.
There's no doubt. It was all for a reason to kind of get you to that place, kind of that second half. What's that second half for Richard going to be like? it doesn't just have to be about wealth. You know, it can be about really doing great things for other people. You know, so one last kind of question on the mindset and decision making. I've made plenty of mistakes in my life. Plenty of mistakes not too long ago in real estate and how we handled acquisitions. You name it. We try to do the right thing and we work our way out of it. Are there any mistakes that come to your mind that have really kind of been a springboard for future success that pop out to you?
A mistake? No. An opportunity where I thought something was going to kill my business? Absolutely. In 2016, all of Southeast Louisiana flooded. And at the time, that same partner that I bought those 3 mobile home parks with, the month prior, I pulled every access to cash that I could. I'm talking cash advances on credit cards, lines of credits from the bank, everything. And I bought them out. And so I'm highly levered. And 1 month later, everything we own floods. Not a single thing survived the flood.
Oh my gosh.
And I was thinking like, all right, this is it. I'm 30 and I'm about to experience what bankruptcy feels like. So I immediately got on the phone, put the boots on, put the gloves on, and I just went to work. And within 6 months after the flood, all my tenants were restored. I had them up and going, and we were full again.
Wow.
And so the 2, I guess, failures or the opportunities that I had from that disaster was, one, I didn't realize how hard I could work, right? What seems to be just an insurmountable task in front of you. And if you just really just take those small bites, you know, they grow. And before you know it, you're up and running. And the second thing is my banker saw this. And so he called me and when the flood happened and said, hey, we'll defer any loan payments you need. We'll put them on the back end. Just let us know. And I didn't. I made every single loan payment, never missed. And I was quick to report back that, hey, guess what? We made it all and we're back full. I'm not even in my own house, but my tenants are taken care of. Your loans are taken care of. And in 2017, still I'm not in my own house. He made me the loan that I wouldn't have made myself on a property that I shouldn't have bought. On a property that was too big for me to handle. And so most of my transactions up to this point have been, $300,000 to $500,000. This one was $2 million. This one single property, so 4 times my average. I had seller financing for my down payment. The bank was going to finance my cash portion of it for the seller. So I was 100% levered on the purchase. And the bank asked me, said, hey, I see the seller's carrying this for 5 years. What are you going to do about this? And I already had a plan. I said, this is a 5-year horizon. This is what I'm going to do. You know my work ethic. I'm going to refinance in 5 years, and I'm going to have the equity to pay them off. And I went, okay. But because of the work that happened, because of the disaster that happened in 2016, I don't think the bank would have ever made me that loan because of the character that we had put into our business.
Wow.
And also because of 2016, this property that I bought flooded, and I was able to see the opportunity in what should have been a $2.5 million asset I got for $2 million, and just had to put a little bit of effort into it, and got it back up and going. So I'm not sure that really answers your questions with regards to failure, but where something could have been a failure, absolutely.
Maybe
If
a
I had to-
hardship.
A hardship, yeah.
Yeah.
Hurricane Ida was the same way. We had 11 properties at the time of Ida, and only 2 weren't affected
Mm.
out of the 11. One of which being our Mississippi property.
Yep.
Um,
That was a good little one.
it was a good little one.
Yeah.
Ida was the same thing. I'm still dealing with Ida issues, and we're coming up to a year now from Hurricane Ida.
You know, one of the things that I guess I was a little prideful or pig-headed coming into starting my own company 4 years ago or whatever. I was a real estate broker, had some success. I had worked at a company doing real estate stuff. I thought, hey, here's a deal, Mr. Lender, give me the money. What I've come to find out is trust and reputation are so important. And these things, they just kind of take time to build. There are certain things you can do, I think, to build trust with your lenders and your partners. One of the things I try to do is send them a P&L every month, give them a little quick update on the property so they kind of always know what's going on. What have you done anything special to kind of build trust with your lenders?
Yeah, so on every purchase, none of our properties have been stabilized upon purchase, whether it's been cosmetically or by income. That's that value add, right? And so we request an appraisal that says, hey, what's the value today? Then it's as is value. And what will be the value as if my vision of the property will be achieved? This upon stabilization value. And so the bank knows where I want to go. And they've seen that I could take a property there. So to establish that trust, that's where I'm going. The 3 and the 6 month period, I send them like, hey, this is where we bought it. Remember this, and this is where we are now.
And what is that? Is that like a P&L, just a cash flow, gross income? What do you send them?
Yes, and so it's a snapshot P&L, right, where everything is super abbreviated, but then I write it out. Say, here's what we've done. We've paved the roads. We were successful in evicting 4 tenants. These 4 tenants, one was a domestic abuser, 2 were drama causers, and 1 was a late payer. We filled these units back up. And so we go through a part of the story of the action steps that we've done, more so than just here's the P&L, because they see that all day. But the stories stick. Got
it.
And then we do that again at the 6 month period. Now, when we get it stabilized, which most appraisers project like a year to 2 years for our property type, I'll normally get done within 6 to 9 months. When I get it stabilized, it's like, oh, hey, banker, remember that value that was in that appraisal? I need a line of credit off of that. Or can we refinance my loan off of this value? And I get cash back, and I either repay myself for the improvements that I made to the property, or I use it to purchase another asset or pay off another debt.
Right. Interesting. And so on those lines of credit, you refinance, obviously you're getting new long-term 5-year debt on the property. Is a line of credit just a 12-month kind of revolver, or are there longer lines of credit that you can kind of apply for?
Yeah. I've never applied for a longer, or I've never asked about it.
Okay.
And I've also never really, never wanted to push the envelope for the lines of credit, because the lines of credit really, they're almost like my operating cash flow for the property as I fill them up to their limit and I pay them down. All of ours are 1-year lines of credit on fixed rate plus 25 or 50 basis points over the floor. And I don't ask any questions. They normally give me whatever I ask for, and I use it, and they see that it's being used. It's just not being filled and staying there, which on the banking side of things is a red flag. So you don't want to keep a line at its limit. You want to pay it down and actually use it. I've never looked into longer lines. I think if you would, it'll be more like a loan,
right,
than a line.
That's really interesting. We're in the real estate business. You've got great processes and procedures, but you still need people to run this business. You've got handymen, maintenance men, you've got operations managers. Do you think about culture? How do you think about hiring? Help me understand some of your thought process there.
People are the worst.
He's smiling right now. Okay, folks.
Yeah. No, that's I'm always on the lookout for great help. Anytime I'm in the field and I see a tenant that's out, I talk to them, find out what they do, where's their family, just that general get to know you feel. And I'm constantly hiring in my head. So when the opportunity arises where I need to fit a position, I already have 2 or 3 people that I can go to and say, hey, remember we talked at this time? We've already established a little rapport without it being, hey, I need some help.
Yes.
Which has been very, very helpful. Now,
when the team at Google finds out I'm being helpful, they're going to be so proud.
Good. Google was listening. I don't know if you heard that.
Great.
Whenever we do hire for kind of minimum standards. Like we're not going to ask the plumber to do carpentry work, even though he probably can.
Mm-hmm.
We're not going to ask the lawn guy to do tree work, even though he probably can.
Right.
And
Stay in your lane.
That's it. So we graduate those positions, and the same thing with our managers, right? I've now come to realize that it's best just to have people do what they do best. Right?
Amen to that.
So, just as an example, one of our managers, he's very intimidating looking, and he can't speak to women. Like our female tenants, if he goes to tell them, like, hey, can you pick up the trash? They're going to say, he's yelling at me just because he's intimidating looking. And so he's not allowed to talk to female tenants, right? And we have another manager who has a really hard time giving violations because she's friends with everybody. So we don't have her give violations. We get somebody else from off the site that comes in and can be that third party, Otherwise, I would lose a good manager. She's great at all of her other roles, except for this one. That kind of keeps the order in place. And I'd rather slightly overpay her for a job that she should be able to do and bring somebody else in than to lose somebody for a job that they were doing great in on 90% of the stuff.
Right.
Where I could have filled in the gap with somebody else. And then the other part for the people wise, that we treat our people good. I think we've only had to fire 3. I would have to think through this. We've hired a lot of people, and either they've left and moved, or they stayed with the property when we sold it. But the people that we've fired, it's all been because of complete negligence or extortion, which that's not an opportunity anymore for us.
Yep.
But everybody else stays around. And for even properties that we're selling, they'll say, hey, can I come with you? Like, yes. And so we just treat people good.
Yeah. I think so much of what you said is true. One is just not asking the carpenter to cut the trees or vice versa. I remember getting started wanting to hire a Swiss Army knife. I want you to do everything. And that's just not realistic for people. As an entrepreneur, you can do everything, but this is your baby, and you just can't expect people to do all that. It's important to have defined lanes, and they can know what they're doing.
And here's the short-sightedness of it. Whenever you started your business, you did everything, right? You're the vision, you're the engine, and you're also the accountant, right? Most entrepreneurs, outside of those in the E-Myth book, their vision and their go-getters. They're not the accountant, right? And so we want to hire the Swiss Army knife, but we are not. As the head of the company, we are not the Swiss Army knife. Now we're willing to do the work and find things out. We have the drive to learn,
right?
But that's not our skill set. So it's prideful to think that there's somebody out there that really can do everything.
Right.
That's not already in your position or higher.
Right. Right, man. That's just so true. I mean, you just think that, I've got a problem and the solution is to go hire somebody. And that's rarely the solution. I mean, the solution is clearly understanding the problem. Can we systematize what is the right kind of person we need to fill this role? Is it really 2 roles? Do I need to do 1 role and then hire out for a part of the role? So I've come to learn there's so much more to solving problems and people. Here's a good question I always like to ask people. If you could give yourself advice from 10 years ago, what advice would you give yourself?
Probably the 2 things is not to doubt myself. I think unwarranted doubt is just a dream killer. And then the second thing is to err on the side of action. And so just hesitancy will kill more opportunities in dreams than what action ever will.
That was awesome. Wow.
Raise the roof.
Wow. Okay, so you've got 4 kids. I've got 4 kids. What you're talking about is 100% spot on. How do we encourage more action, and how do we help to build that confidence? But confidence has to come from within. Have you thought anything about that, passing those skills on to your kids?
Yeah, it's all of my kids are just naturally confident to begin with. We speak life into them, and we try to make sure that they know that their identity is not as someone who goes to a certain school, or not as a gymnast, but their identity, one, is in Christ. And with that, there's full satisfaction and fulfillment that's in place, and that can't be taken away. And so that's priority number 1. But that doesn't change that real life things still happen. And so for example, my oldest is going into high school, and he hasn't hit the big growth spurt like all of his peers have, who are now starting to grow mustaches. And he still has baby fat, but we also know the value of teams, whether it's in band, art, theater, sports. And so he was like, "Hey, I want to get into powerlifting." And I was like, "Well,
Sweet.
Okay," and then he goes into the powerlifting practice for the very first time, and man, he's not just the smallest one, but he's really the smallest one. And so confidence shrinks, of course, right? And not just in my child's mind, but also in the parent's mind. Like, is this really the right spot, right? Mm-hmm. And so a little bit of education came through where we looked up. Hey, this is your weight class. This is what the state record was last year for your weight class. And guess what, buddy? Like, you're not that far off. You can do this. Despite how you physically look and how your mind tells you are, you're not alone. And you can do it, to err on that side of action. So that's one scenario. And another one is in theater. Our kids are not naturally just outgoing people. And so in an effort to try to develop their speech and their presentation, we put them into the Christian Youth Theater, which is an amazing program that they have throughout the United States. And through that, they've gone through improv classes, learning how to think with their feet, how to present whenever a light is on you and the rest of the room is dark. How do you handle yourself when you tell a joke and no one laughs? But all those things are done in a safe place before
that's awesome.
They get their teeth kicked in the real world. So in the real world, when that does happen, they're prepared. And so I think what happens in the safe places and home is where we develop that confidence.
I knew you'd have a thoughtful answer, Richard. I knew you would.
Oh, man.
Well, this has been a ton of fun. Just to kind of wrap it up, what's kind of the vision for Richard? I mean, are we going to continue on in the mobile home park space? I know we've kind of talked a little bit about Airbnbs and things like that. You're always looking at new opportunities. What's the future hold?
So it's funny you say that. I'm looking at timber land right now.
Oh, yeah, baby. Hell yeah.
It's one of those things. I really love land. I love the access just for the recreation component of it, the hunting and fishing side of it. And there's not a lot of management that comes with land, which is really, really super.
How many acres are we talking about?
340.
Oh, dude, that's a tract right there. Come on.
This is in St. Helena Parish.
Come on.
Already has a pine plantation on it that's 6 years old. So another year I can cut it and get pine straw and sell it. The return is really, really low. But the management side is really, really low, which is why your return is low. But I've seen so much development just happen all around me and tracts that I didn't think were going to do anything. And so this particular parcel is just outside the city limits. And I'm considering taking the front 100 acres and just subdividing into large lots, 3 to 5 acre lots. All access to the road. Do what's already legally permissible. And if it doesn't sell, it's no big deal. We'll cut it for timber. So that's what I'm looking at now. What my ultimate vision.
I love it,
ultimate
man.
Vision and future is. This is going to sound twisted. I want to find opportunities for success where God richly blesses our family to allow us to richly bless others.
Amen.
And whether that's supporting missions for people to go on mission trips, or having the time available whenever somebody needs something done. Where I'm not stuck behind a desk working, I can actually go and be the hands and feet. Right? And so it's more than just money, right? There's also human capital that we're trying to free up that you can employ. So that's where we're heading. How does that look on a picture? I don't know. In the next 2 or 3 years, as of now, I plan on selling most of what we have.
Really?
And I have a few little portfolios that will make really good packages for institutional investors. And the smaller things that we have, I'll probably keep so I could teach my own kids real estate. And then the rest, be in the mission.
Man, you're such an inspiration, man. It's been a ton of fun. It really has. It seems like your head and your heart are really in the right place, and it's exciting to see what kind of the next chapter looks like for you.
I appreciate it, Drew. I'm sure you'll be in there along the way, and
I hope so
at some point. And
I hope so.
I mean, the part that I kind of see with all entrepreneurs and with all people is that no one has it all together. Right? You can row the boat by yourself, but you're going to hate yourself or die.
Yeah.
Man, and we all need help. We all need teams. And the moment that as an investor you think that I can do this by myself, is the moment that your business starts declining in its potential. And a 50% drop, right? Just a simple numbers analogy. If we have $100, it drops 50%. We have $50. Well, it doesn't need to increase 50% to get back to where you were. It needs to increase 100%.
Right.
And so it's a whole lot harder to get back up that hill. So yeah, no one has it all together, and we need one another. And be quick. Be quick to fill in those gaps.
Mm-hmm. Well, man, this was just a ton of fun today. Thanks for coming on. It was a real pleasure.
Thanks, Drew. I'm glad you have it, man.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, until next time, I wish you all the best.
Thank you, Drew.
All right.
Peace
See
out,
ya.
dude.
I would really appreciate it if you'd leave us a review on Spotify, Apple, or anywhere you're listening or watching to this show. Thanks so much for joining us on this audio adventure. Let's go have some fun.